I am an alien bringing you a message from the future. Like Sting famously sang, I'm an alien, I'm a legal alien, except I'm what you would call an illegal alien, un clandestino. Everything sounds better in Italian, right? Sounds like we're part of some big espionage operation. Clandestine. The name's Aaron. Vision Aaron. When I dress up in my custom fashion creations, I'm definitely seen as strange or foreign here in Italy. But doesn't every immigrant feel that way a little bit to different degrees? Am I what you think of when you hear the word foreigner? What about illegal alien? Or expat versus immigrant? Today, I want to talk to you about the importance of diversity and how accepting immigrants rather than fearing them helped enrich my life. How language learning and linguistics help us have a broader understanding of culture. And I'm optimistic that with a little curiosity, history, and empathy, we find an antidote for xenophobia. And we can find a way to utilize this undervalued human resource to build a better and stronger Italy for the future. I want to thank my immigrant friends back in Venice Beach, California, like in Baywatch. I get similar positive vibes here in Sardinia, and my Sardinian husband and I like to call it California. You might recognize my high school from the movie Grease, or from the music video for Britney Spears' Baby One More Time. But I can assure you that the average student didn't look like Britney, John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, or Pamela Anderson. My school was actually made up of only about 10% white students, with about 20% Asian, 30% African American, and 40% Latino. So a lot of my friends were from completely different cultural backgrounds. And many of them were children of immigrants or started off as undocumented immigrants themselves. I was surrounded by kids who had what I thought of as secret languages. They could talk to each other in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Tagalog, Amharic, Tigrinya. So many languages, it's hard to list. But I realized I was surrounded by an amazing wealth of knowledge and culture, and I wanted to do as much as possible to learn as much as I could, knowing that language is a sort of key to unlock how people think and how you understand them and their culture and make friends. So I tried to learn as much as possible, and by the end of high school, I had studied Spanish, German, French, Italian, and Japanese. Later, I would study Mandarin, Arabic, Dutch, and Portuguese, all while trying to learn as many expressions as possible in as many languages as possible. But I didn't realize that these would be helpful for me later in my career as a professional fashion and celebrity makeup artist. At age 15, I started working so I could save money to become an exchange student, start my travels around the world. I was placed with a family in Switzerland, and I made friends with so many other foreign exchange students coming from countries like Ecuador and Zimbabwe. We all boldly went where none of us had gone before. I realized that I wasn't just learning about Switzerland or learning to adapt to a new culture, a new family in German, but I was also learning about many other countries in the world. Teenage me would have never imagined that speaking Italian would get Cher to ask me to retouch her makeup, or translating for Captain America, Chris Evans, on a photo shoot for L'Uomo Vogue, or realized that Annie Lennox could speak French to a hairdresser who wasn't confident in English, or use some of those expressions from my Korean friends that I learned when I was about 13 when meeting the K-pop sensation BTS. 안녕하세요. I never imagined that I'd be learning expressions in Chichewa while doing humanitarian work in Malawi, or write down little messages in lots of different languages for Madonna to use while we were on world tours. Cultural curiosity helped me discover another antidote to xenophobia. Getting to know real people having real connection and real experience exchanged, and seeing them as individuals. The fear of the unknown is lessened when we get to know people. I found that one of the ways to combat negative stereotypes, let's say in this case about Muslims, is to think of all the real, kind, friendly, fun people that you meet in your daily lives. For me, it's friends like Fatma, Rawad, or Amin. They come in peace. In Arabic, we have root consonant clusters like S, L, and M together that you see in words like Islam, Muslim, or Salam, and also in the Hebrew, Shalom, which mean peace. At Yale University, I discovered the fascinating field of linguistics, the scientific study of language, phonetics, historical linguistics, and sociolinguistics all help me see the world almost like a geneticist trying to unravel the different mysteries of DNA. I was able to look at language and communication at different levels and peel them away, trying to understand the influences over time in something that we see today as like Sardinian language and culture, or Sicilian, or Neapolitan, or Italian in general. What we find is that there's many different layers and that it's something that's blended and layered over thousands of years and different influences, like Etruscan, Phoenician, Greek, North African, or Neurologic, and different intensities depending on the geographies of invaders and different empires. They left their traces both in our aesthetic traits or ethnic traits and in our language we find traces. There were also different layers of Ostrogoths, Vandals, Normans, and Lombards, oh my. Yet many people still think Italians are all dark like in American mafia movies. Yet Italians can have blonde hair and blue eyes, they can have red hair and freckles, or have darker skin and tight curls like we see on ancient statues. But it's important for me that you understand today, Italians can be of any ethnic origin. Many people think of ethnicity or culture as something that's static. But for me, it's more like a screenshot of something that's constantly evolving over time. Those who were once foreigners are now part of us. Unfortunately, today, much of Europe is characterized by sentiments of xenophobia. It's interesting how, even to express that, we all use a Greek word, like those layers that I mentioned. Words can be like DNA testing and tell us who influenced what we think of today as our language and culture. It's been amazing living more than half my life here in Italy, becoming an Italian citizen and witnessing evolution in action. Like in the 1990s, I studied at the University of Bologna and took a train to Florence. And on that train, I met this Chinese-Italian girl. And when she spoke, I thought she could be as Tuscan as Roberto Benigni. Una ho-ho-hola, per favore. Or in the 2000s, I was at my favorite Ethiopian restaurant in Milan, and I met this beautiful young student, Senite, who was, like many of Italy's historic Afro-Italian community, was from East Africa, but she was born and raised in Italy. And she was so linguistically and culturally Italian that you could say she's Milanese. Yet many Italians have this concept that culture and ethnicity are somehow inseparable or unchangeable. And they would likely see her as less Italian than me, just because I'm white. Later, I was at another party in London with a Sardinian friend, one of the top hairstylists in the world, and now a top fashion photographer, Luigi Moreno. He introduced me to this guy who is half Egyptian and half Sardinian. How cool is that? It turns out that he was actually Mahmoud, the winner of the prestigious Sanremo Song Contest. Or another time I worked with a half Japanese, half Italian stylist and designer, Nicola Formichetti, famous for work with Lady Gaga, groundbreaking, like that infamous meat dress. Of course, I worked with many models who would then have children with Italians and create another generation of bicultural and multi-ethnic Italians. Attenzione però, it's easy to accept beautiful Caribbean models and South American models or Brazilian and African soccer players, calciatori, or a white Ivy League educated American working for Prada, Dolce & Gabbana, Versace, and Gucci. In Italy, we have a history of naturalized citizens competing for us in sporting events, like Min Yang, a Chinese-Italian table tennis Olympian. Every Italian knows the talented Fiona May, the Black British-Italian Olympic medalist in track and field. And that list is infinite because it's just going to continue to grow and grow. Something important that I learned in America, though, is that it's important to appreciate, accept, and respect people of color, not just when they perform or entertain us or compete for us, but all those people just in their everyday lives that we see in our work on the public transportation, people just like you and me. But what about bad immigrants? Imagine being from a group of immigrants that's unwanted or unloved or scary for people, desperate to build a new life, willing to risk their lives traveling by boat to another country, only to find when they arrive that they're unwelcome and undesirable. So, you see them. They have a strange language, different customs, different food, maybe a different religion. In America, I want you guys to imagine for a second, visualize these people, right? In America, one of these groups that was undesirable, we called them Italians. In 1924, the United States felt the country that was founded on accepting people hoping to build a new life, found that they had enough people from countries they didn't like as much and that they were scared of because they brought with them this threat of a scary religion called Catholicism. Many were afraid that the Pope could usurp control of the United States through all of these Irish and Italian immigrants. Yet, even decades later, people were afraid when John F. Kennedy was elected president because he was Catholic. It sounds funny today, right? Like Gangs of New York times or something. In Italy, I realized that there was also discrimination against Southern Italians migrating north for work. They called them terroni. It sounds sadly cyclical and repetitive, doesn't it? Imagine Italians going north for work even more to Northern Europe. Ausländer raus! Get out, foreigners! Was graffitied on walls. Would we even have the word graffiti if it wasn't for that strong Italian cultural impact that we've had? Try to imagine an America that never welcomed Italians or other immigrants. An America without pizza, pasta, Sinatra, De Niro, Sylvester Stallone, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande, and of course, Madonna. It's easy to think about the famous examples, right? But really, it's the everyday immigrants who mix and share, who really stir that giant melting pot. So, what is this message from the future that I'm bringing to you? Well, I grew up in an extreme case of multiculturalism and immigration. And I'm only thankful for all of these immigrants who shared some of their cultural DNA that's now part of me. I see us forging ahead towards a more interconnected future through internet, social media, and entertainment. I think that there are many people that live my situation today in multicultural environments in Italy. So you could say, my experience is the present or future experience for many Italians. And I'm here to tell you, non abbiate paura. Don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. Andrà tutto bene. Your kids are going to benefit from it. Diversity and inclusion only benefit every workplace and even the fabric of society. They add their strengths to this multi-layered genetic heritage that we think of as Italy. So, what do Jesus, Albert Einstein, Yoko Ono, Bob Marley, and Superman have in common? It's not just the cool hair. They were all immigrants. Immigrants tend to be highly motivated, hardworking, and imprenditorial. I'm starting to speak sometimes in Italian on accident. Sorry, when I'm in Italy, it happens. And entrepreneurial. So, we see immigrants like Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan, who are everything immigrant all at once. Most economists would agree that the initial costs of immigration are offset by contributions over time and by their children. Think of all the startups and businesses they start. They usually arrive in a prime working and tax-paying age, just like I did. I actually contributed more into the Italian tax system than an average Italian worker. Legalization equals more taxed income. They also help supplement an aging population and are willing to do jobs that natives often find too difficult or undesirable. Companies can benefit from promoting and understanding and hiring people of different ethnicities to avoid some of those scandals by global Italian brands that cost losses of millions or even hundreds of millions that could have simply been avoided had they had Black, Asian, or Muslim voices in the room. Greater cultural understanding simply means better business. So, instead of fear or phobia, you could say that I've cultivated xenophilia. I welcome all of the contributions by all of these people who have something to offer and see that they contribute their cultural DNA into ours as we try to build a more cosmopolitan future and a more dynamic Italy with immigrants and their families. I want you to think about, what if your family immigrated to work in South America, Northern Europe, Australia, or North America? How would you have wanted them to be treated? They were us. We are them. The American dream, though idealized, at its core still represents the hope that any person, any immigrant from any social status can work hard and succeed. There's an expression in Italian, likely due to many Italians who went and found prosperity in the United States, for when you've really found success, when you've really made it. Hai trovato l'America. You found America. My wish is that you would give others, even those who look different, the same respect and opportunity that you've given me to find l'America in Italia. Grazie.